Okay.
Yeah. So they might go right to, hey.
What's happening, my high rise hustlers? Welcome back to another episode of the Do a Different Better show, where we make finance simple for everyday people, whether you live in a skyscraper or walk up. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, CEO and founder of Social Impact Now and Connective Institute, and the managing director of the Integrated Capital Fund. And I am so excited to dive into today's topic. Today, we're going to be talking about something that really doesn't get enough attention, and that is how city dwellers, especially renters, can build up wealth without either ever owning a home. I know. We've been taught for decades that buying a house is the ultimate sign of success and the best way to build wealth. But guess what? That's not true for everyone, especially in high density urban environments where home prices are skyrocketing. So, today we're going to shift the conversation. If you're living in a bustling city, chances are you're renting, and you've probably heard time and time again that in order for you to really build wealth, you really need to own a home. Well, today we're going to flip that script. I'm going to show you how to explore how you can leverage your urban lifestyle to build wealth without ever signing a mortgage. And quite frankly, what I'm hearing from a lot of my single girlfriends, particularly those in their 40s, the ones who have homes are actually regretting buying a home. They're like, it feels like I don't have any flexibility. I feel really tied to this thing. Now, maybe this is a generational thing as far as wanting to be able to have access to traveling and things like that. But there's definitely this trend of people not wanting to purchase homes, but still wanting to build wealth. So I'm so excited to get into this very sort of topic that is very important right now in this point in time. But before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Shoot me a message on social media using the hashtag urban investor, and tell us what's your biggest challenge when it comes to investing while living in the city. But now, first, let's start by addressing the elephant in the room, the unique financial landscape of urban living. Living in the city comes with its own set of financial challenges, doesn't it? There's higher rent, there's more expensive groceries, and don't even get me started on the cost of going out. I remember when I lived in Los Angeles, I think I told you all, I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I didn't leave Los Angeles till I was in my 30s. But I thought going out, two people having a drink, appetizers, a meal, and dessert, that should cost $150. Now, we're talking about the 90s. $150 was a night out for you and a girlfriend. Now, mind you, I was not rolling in dough by any stretch of the imagination. I was actually still a college student. And yes, it was the natural assumption $150 is how much it costs. And I'll never forget when I moved to Las Vegas and me and a friend went out, and I think we spent $75. Same deal. Both had a cocktail, we both had an appetizer, we both had a meal, and maybe shared a dessert. And when we got the bill, I was shocked. I was shocked. I'm like, wait, everybody doesn't spend $150 on a meal. Well, what I didn't realize at the time was, yes, when you live closer to a metropolitan urban area, things are going to cost more for a variety of reasons. But here's the thing. With those higher costs, there does come a set of advantages and higher opportunities. So think about it. In the city, you're at the epicenter of economic activity. You have access to higher paying jobs, diverse range of industries, and networking opportunities that simply don't exist in smaller towns or exurbs, right? Those are cities that surround a suburb that surround a urban center. Your upstairs neighbor could be the founder of the next big startup, or your local barista might be moonlighting as a successful freelance graphic designer. I even have some of my staff, almost all of my staff, have side gigs where they do something else. I have Moonshine Stylist, who is a fashion stylist for individuals and people who are corporate executives. I have a woman in my office who does event planning on the side. So it's really, and I try to throw them business anytime I get. But These are the advantages that you have to like living closer into a city center. But you also have more opportunities to increase your income, just like I was talking about, whether it's through side gigs or a startup or tapping into the gig economy. Cities are where ideas flourish and opportunities to diversify your income streams are endless. You might not have a backyard to maintain, but you're in the center of wealth building ecosystems. So now let's talk about the overlooked advantage of renting, and that is flexibility. In a rapid changing job market, the ability to move quickly for a new opportunity is invaluable. And especially in this moment of globalization, where there are people who are literally technical nomads. They can work from anywhere. They are not restricted by a time zone, which allows them to live months at a time in different time zones, particularly different countries, right? I have a friend of mine. She has lived the last 5 years in van life. She goes around seeing friends and family because she's able to work mobile off of as long as she has internet, she can work. So in her trailer, she travels around. Sometimes she stays with people, but if she's not staying with somebody, she has a fully built out van that she can live out. Her van even has a little tub. Don't ask me, but it's super, super cute. I'm just going to tell you that right now, right? But homeowners often find themselves tied to a specific location, potentially missing out on career advancements. But as a renter, you have the freedom to be able to follow these opportunities as they come up. So now let's talk about the mindset. Now we're going to really talk about what really holds people back. And that's the idea that renting is just throwing away money. We've all heard it, right? You've just been paying your landlord's mortgage instead of your own. But let me flip the script here just a little bit. Renting doesn't have to be a financial disadvantage. In fact, for many city dwellers, renting can actually free up capital to invest elsewhere. My grandmother, I think I shared with you in a previous episode, she never wanted to own a house. Particularly, she was a live-in nurse and she only had one day off. So owning a house just didn't make sense for her. If you're somebody who travels a lot for your job, maybe you're an outbound salesperson or you're a traveling salesperson, owning a house may not be the smartest investment, but you do want to be able to start building wealth in some sort of investment vehicles, right? So this allows you to be able to take what you would normally put into a mortgage and start investing. So here's the reason why. When you're not tied to a mortgage, like property taxes or home maintenance costs, you can use that extra money to invest in things that offer you a better return. So instead of putting $20,000 into a down payment, what if you invested that money into stocks or a high growth index fund? Over time, that money could significantly grow, that would actually exceed the value or equity that you would build in a home, especially if you're young and you're not sure where you're going to end up. If you are thinking about being in a relationship, what will happen with that person's job? What might happen with your job? So it just really gives you that flexibility if you're not really ready to make the decision to buy a home. By renting, you can have so much more flexibility about moving to different job opportunities, taking advantage of lower cost of things that you have access to, and you don't have to worry about selling a house before you move. The flexibility is key in today's fast-moving world. So now I can already hear some of you saying, but Elaine, what about building equity, building ownership? Aren't I just throwing away money on rent? And that, my friends, is where we need to have a major mindset shift. I want you to stop thinking of yourself as just a renter and start seeing yourself as an urban investor. Your rent isn't just a monthly expense. It's an investment in location and opportunity. So let's introduce a concept I like to call financial density. In urban areas, you have a higher concentration of financial opportunities per square mile than anywhere else. Your rent buys you access to that density of opportunity. Consider this. Marcus is a software developer living in a small Midwestern town, owns a home, and has a good paying job paying $70,000 a year. Meanwhile, Keisha rents an apartment in San Francisco for $3,000 a month, which might seem crazy expensive. but Keisha's tech job pays $150,000 a year, and she's surrounded by companies always on the lookout for talent, offering even higher salaries. So let's just do the math real quick. Even after paying her rent, Keisha has more disposable income than Marcus. Plus, she has greater potential for career growth, network opportunities that could lead to even higher income and possibly launching her own business. This is the power of financial density. Your rent isn't just paying for a place to live, it's buying you a ticket to play in the big leagues of wealth building. So I'll give you another example. When my son was going to private parochial school, my husband was really upset because my son at the time was not necessarily leveraging the opportunity of being in this private school. But what I said to him was, I am okay with him finding his way while he goes to this school because I am paying for the company that he keeps. It is worth it to me and invest in him being in a place where he has access to not only what would be considered a better education or better quality education, but a set of students that he will be able to be networked into for the rest of his life. And I will just tell you, my son is now about to be 28, and some of the friends that he has had over the last number of years, the last 10 years or so, since he's been in high school, have been such invaluable friends and networking opportunities for him. So once again, this is the same sort of logic applies. But let me give you a real life example to illustrate this perfectly. Let's meet Sarah. Sarah's a former student of mine who embraced an urban investor mindset. Sarah moved to New York City and was renting a tiny studio apartment in Brooklyn. Instead of lamenting over the fact that she couldn't afford to buy a home in the city or a condo, she leveraged the location to turbocharge her career. She networked relentlessly. She jumped on opportunities that her location afforded her, and in just 5 years, she went from an entry-level marketing position to heading up a digital strategy for a major brand. Her salary tripled. She invested the difference aggressively. Today, her investment portfolio is worth more than the down payment she would have needed for a starter home in that city. And the best part, she still has flexibility to move for an even better opportunity if it arises. Sarah's story is the perfect example of how reframing your mindset from a renter to an urban investor can lead to a substantial wealth building, all without even owning a single foot of real estate. So, as we start to wrap up for this segment, I want you to take a moment and really internalize this mindset shift. You're not just a renter, you're an urban investor. Your rent is buying you access to opportunities, flexibility, and access to financial density that can supercharge your wealth building journey. But remember, an investment is only worth its weight if you activate the investment. So if you are going to choose and you are going to now become an urban investor, right? Then you have to start thinking about how do you want to leverage that as far as your networking opportunities, your job opportunities. Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to have a side gig or a side hustle, whatever that looks like? So be mindful of, yes, I'm an urban investor, and now what is going to be my strategy? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So what's the takeaway here? Renting does not break your financial future or make you a financial failure. In fact, it could be a strategic decision that allows you to focus on potentially higher investments. So here's my call to action. I want you to ask yourself a question today. What if instead of putting your savings into a down payment for a home, you actually invested your money into assets like stocks or bonds or even a startup? I just want you to take a moment to think about it. Reallocating that capital could completely transform your financial future. So if you're renting right now, start thinking of it as a way to keep your capital liquid and getting ready to actually make some sound investments. Remember, building wealth isn't just about doing what everyone else is doing. It's also about doing what's best for you. Okay, this wraps up our first segment. Coming up next, we're going to dive into some specific investment strategies that are tailored for apartment dwellers like you and what they can focus on, such as REITs and stocks, and I'll talk about what REITs are. You don't need to own property to get your piece of the wealth pie. So stick around and learn more about how to grow your financial empire from your city apartment. I will see you after the break, where I'll explore how to leverage high yield savings accounts, stock market investments, and alternative investments that are perfect for city dwellers. I'll catch you after the break.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Do.Different.Better show. I'm Elaine Rasmussen, your host. I'm so happy to see you back here, my urban wealth builders. In this segment, we're going to be diving into some powerful investment strategies that don't require for you to own a home. I know some of you think, but Elaine, I live in an apartment. How could I possibly invest in real estate if I don't own any property? Well, I'm about to show you how. Let's start with something simple but powerful, and that is high yield savings accounts and money markets accounts. We did a whole show on this before, so definitely check that out for more deeper details, but we're just going to gloss over this today. Now, I know what you might be thinking, savings accounts, really, Elaine? But hear me out, hear me out. As urban dwellers, we face higher costs of living, which means having a robust emergency fund is really super important. But let's make that money work harder for us. Online banks often offer significantly higher interest rates than traditional brick and mortar banks. And that's because they don't have a building generally, or they don't have multiple buildings like a traditional bank does all over the city where you have access to it. But they are offering rates that can be 10 to 20 times higher than a brick and mortar bank. So here's an example. As of this recording date, while big banks are offering a measly 0.01%, that means not even 1%, it's 1% of 1% on savings accounts, right? That's the interest they're paying on savings accounts. Some online banks are offering over 3%. Let's think about this. On a $10,000 emergency fund, that's the difference between earning $1 a year and earning $300 a year. That's a few nice dinners out in the city for our urban investors, right? Or that's $300 you can go now and invest in a stock or a set of stocks. But here's a pro tip. Don't park all your cash in one high yield savings account. Consider a ladder of money market accounts with different maturity dates. This strategy often is used with certificates of deposits or CDs. They can be adapted for money market accounts to give you a blend of higher returns, yet having your capital liquid in case you need it, right? So remember, liquidity means how quickly can you get the asset converted to cash. And when you put it in a money market account or a CD, there's definitely a shorter time horizon. Now, with CDs, as we've talked about, they sometimes have a prescribed time horizon. Maybe it's a 30-day, a 60-day, a 90-day, a 6-month, or a 12-month certificate of deposit, which means you will put your money in for a designated amount of time. They will pay interest on the fact that they will pay you interest, right? Based on the fact that you're allowing them to borrow that money to lend to someone else, right? Okay. Quick tutorial on certificates of deposits. But now let's move on to the stock market. This is where living in a city really can play to your advantage. First, let's talk about real estate investment trust, or REITs. Think of a REIT as a way to invest in real estate without ever needing to deal with the headaches of owning or managing a property. A REIT is like a mutual fund, but for real estate. There are companies who own and operate income generating real estate. Everything from shopping malls to office buildings, even apartment complexes like the one you might be living in. What's cool about a REIT is that you can invest in them just like you would a stock. You buy shares, and as the properties generate income through rent, leases, or sales, you get a portion of these earnings in the form of dividends. There are no property taxes, there are no repairs, there's no dealing with tenants. All you do is collect those dividends while the REIT does all the heavy lifting for you. There are different types of REITs that you can choose from. There are residential REITs, which own and manage apartment buildings. There are commercial REITs. They deal with properties like office spaces or shopping centers, and industrial REITs focus on things like warehouses and distribution centers. So here in the Twin Cities, we have like Industrial Mile. Those places may be owned by what would be called an industrial REIT. Each one offers its own risk and reward, just like any investment. So, this is where you want to think about your financial goals when choosing where you want to invest. Here's an example. Picture this. You're living in a high-rise apartment and you're watching real estate prices soar. But instead of feeling left out of the property game, you're investing in a residential REIT that owns properties all over the country. Now, when rent is collected on those properties, you get a piece of the pie, even if you don't own a single brick. That's how an urban investor can still make money from a real estate deal without the burden of managing the actual property. Now, obviously, the companies that are managing the REITs, they're making some sort of percentage, right? So there's no free lunches, right? But once again, that is calculated in the expenses as before the dividends are paid out. So any profit that's made, that company is paid for managing not only the portfolio of capital, but also the properties themselves. And then what's left over is what's divided amongst all of the shareholders, which would include you. And those are the dividends that you get paid out. Okay, now that we've covered real estate, let's not forget to talk about the stock market. One of the most accessible and proven methods to build wealth, whether you're in a penthouse or a cozy studio apartment, stocks and ETFs, and we did a whole show on ETFs and index funds, can be your best friend as a renter, giving you a direct path to growing your money without needing to deal with real estate ownership. ETFs, remember, are exchange traded funds. These are like baskets of stock that follow a certain market index like the S&P or Standard & Poor's 500, which remember S&P 500 is a collection of 500 of the top like tech stocks. It includes tech stocks. It'll include some other kinds of stocks, some conglomerate company stocks, but it is a collection of like I believe the top 500 performing stocks. These are perfect for apartment dwellers who want to invest in a diversified portfolio without spending time analyzing individual stocks. You don't need to become a stock guru to invest wisely. ETFs do the diversification for you, right? So now let's talk about a strategy that is perfect for city dwellers who are consistent with their savings. Dollar cost averaging. This simply means investing a fixed amount of money into your portfolio at regular intervals, regardless of what the stock market is doing. Some months you'll buy when prices are low, and other months you might buy when the prices are higher. But over time, this smooths out your investment and can reduce the impact of market volatility. So here's a case study. Let me tell you about Jason, a city dweller from New York who's been living in a rented apartment for the last 10 years. Instead of sinking his money into a down payment, he's invested steadily in the stock market. By focusing on ETFs and consistently maxing out his Roth IRA, we did that show a couple of episodes ago, Jason has grown his portfolio to well over 6 figures, all without ever owning a home. Now he's on track to retire early and he's living his best life in the city without the financial burden of home ownership. The stock market is a wealth generator, and with ETFs or index funds, you can have a diversified portfolio that grows steadily over time, whether or not you own property. So, I know what you're thinking, but Elaine, I am living paycheck to paycheck in this very expensive city. How can I possibly invest in stocks? This is where micro investing apps come really in handy. Apps like Acorn or Stash allow you to invest spare change or small amounts regularly. You can literally invest the money you save by walking to work instead of taking an Uber. With Acorns, for example, every time you buy a latte for $4.50 or $5.50 is probably more appropriate, it rounds up to $6 and invest that extra 50 cents into a diversified portfolio over time. Over the length of a span of time, these little contributions begin to add up. These apps offer fractional shares, meaning you own a piece of a high price stock like Amazon or Google without needing thousands of dollars. It's a great way to tip your toes into investing and build a diverse portfolio, even with your limited funds until you get there, right? We're going to get you wealth adjacent, right? Before you become wealthy. This is the pathway, the step ladder. Now, if you're just getting started or you don't have a ton of capital to throw into the market, micro investing is a low pressure, easy way to dip your toes into investing without feeling overwhelmed. It's all about consistency, not how much you start with, right? And for those of you who want to invest but don't have the time or the interest in managing your own portfolio, that's where we can bring in robo advisors. Once again, did a whole show on robo advisors, but they're robo advisors like a Betterment or a Wealthfront use algorithms to manage your investments for you. You just answer a few questions about your financial goals, and the robo-advisor creates and manages a portfolio that meets your needs, automatically rebalancing, even handling tax loss harvesting to maximize your gains, right? So it's going to do a lot of the work for you until you're ready to work with a financial advisor. And I would offer that having a financial advisor while having a robo-advisor is not a horrible idea either. But I would definitely make sure that if you're going to incorporate a robo-advisor as well as a financial advisor, that you inform the financial advisor that you're using this strategy and keep your actual and real-time financial advisor apprised of what's going on with what's happening on your robo-advisor platform, right? So this can be done by literally sharing the statements that you're getting from the robo-advisor and sharing those financial statements with your actual human financial advisor. But let's go on. Let's not just talk about traditional investments. Cities are a hotbed of innovation, and your investment strategy should reflect that. So let's talk about some alternative investments that may be perfect for an urban investor such as yourself. First up, there's peer-to-peer lending. There are platforms like Prosper and Lending Club that allow you to act as a bank, lending money to individuals or small businesses. It's a way to potentially earn higher returns than a savings account while also supporting your local community. Just remember that with higher returns comes higher risk, so do your due diligence. Excuse me. Next, let's consider real estate crowdfunding. There are platforms like Fundrise or Realty Mogul that allow you to invest in specific real estate projects with as little as $500. It's another way to get into real estate without needing hundreds or thousands of dollars for a down payment. Currently, I'm looking at purchasing a building, and the 20%, it's a commercial property, and that building is going to at least require $100,000 to $200,000 down payment. Now, once again, if I didn't have that, but I wanted to start to build something to eventually own a larger building, I could start off doing some micro investing this way until I got to a certain point that I was ready to make that leap, right? But it's always, I don't care where you start, I just want you to start. Living in a city also puts you in proximity to existing exciting startups. Equity crowdfunding platforms like Seed Invest or Republic allow non-accredited investors to invest in startups. It's high risk, but potentially high reward, and it allows you to be part of the innovation happening around you. Lastly, let's not overlook the potential of investing in art and collectibles. Cities are cultural hubs, and you likely have access to galleries and auctions and markets that others don't. There are platforms like Masterworks that even allow you to buy fractional shares in fine art. It's a way to diversify your portfolio, potentially get some really good returns, and hey, it makes for great conversation at your next dinner party. One of the things that tax exempt I've started recently is really doing jewelry, investing in jewelry. Jewelry, for the most part, appreciates over time. So once again, this is a long-term strategy. I don't plan to buy the jewelry and then sell it, within a year. I'm holding on to the jewelry to be able to have it appreciate. But I'm buying the jewelry off of auctions and estate sales, right? So once again, you want to be able to know what you're looking at. You want to have some level of knowledge so that the investment that you're making, if you're going to be looking at buying something off market, like at an auction or at an estate sale, that you know what you're buying and you have a fair amount of confidence that that item that you're purchasing or that asset that you're purchasing is going to appreciate. So I've done a lot of recently buying some jewelry, gold jewelry, but I'm also getting to enjoy the jewelry. I'm wearing it, getting lovely compliments on the jewelry that I'm purchasing. But then the real long-term goal is to hold on to it, allow it to appreciate, and then be able to cash in later. So once again, I'm hearing you scream through the radio. You're screaming through your laptop. You're screaming through your phone. Elaine, this all sounds great, but how do I know which of these strategies is right for me? And that's a really good question. Um, Once again, I can't tell you because everybody has different goals. Everyone has a different place that they're starting from. But the key is for you to start small, diversify, and always invest with the risk within your risk tolerance. Don't put down $2,000 into an investment if you are not willing to lose that $2,000, right? That's not to say that you will, but it's a mindset of knowing that what you don't want to have to do is that you found yourself in a panic situation because that was next month's rent or next month's mortgage, right? So really think about if you're going to be putting in any kind of money, particularly into the stock market, that there's an opportunity to lose that money. But when you're talking about putting things into like mutual funds, the risk is significantly lower. If you're putting your money into a CD, your money is fairly guaranteed, barring the bank closing its doors. If you put your money into a CD, you are going to get that money back, right? So once again, understanding different opportunities come with different risk profiles, and you knowing where you are, how much you can lose, what your goals are, and navigating sort of the stew of how all of those come together, right? So once again, not there. The goal isn't to get rich quick. That is not the goal. It's to leverage your urban lifestyle to build wealth steadily over time. You're playing the long game here, urban investors, not the short game. So, okay, deep breath. All right, all my apartment dwelling wealth builders, here is your homework for today. I want you to download one micro investing app or sign up for a robo-advisor. Start small, regular contributions, and remember, it's not about how much you invest at the beginning. It's about being consistent and letting those investments grow over time. I want you to stick around for the next segment where we're going to be talking about longer term strategies that you can use to build serious wealth even while you're renting. I will see you back after the break. You're listening to Do Different Better, and I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen. Don't forget to sign up and subscribe, and I will see you after the break.
Yeah. So they might go crazy.
What's up, my side hustling superstars? Welcome back to the Do Different Better show. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen. If you're living that city life, then you know urban living comes with some unique opportunities to build wealth, even if you don't own a home. And one of the best things about living in the city, the gig economy is your playground for creating extra income streams. Let's dive into the gig economy. which has exploded in urban areas. There is everything from driving for Uber or Lyft, delivering food for DoorDash or Postmates, to leveraging your skills or freelancing platforms like Upwork or Fiverr, or selling products on Etsy or other platforms. These are there's so many ways to earn extra cash on the side while working a full-time job, or even if you're in school. These platforms are all about flexibility. You can work when you want, where you want, and you get to decide how much effort you put in. But what if we didn't just use that extra income to pay bills or splurge on a weekend getaway? What if we took that side hustle money and invested it for long term wealth? This is where the magic happens and the urban investor mindset kicks in. So let's go through an example. Let me tell you about Carla. Carla lives in a downtown apartment and drives for Uber on the weekends. She was making an extra $300 a week. And instead of spending it, she decided to invest all of her side hustle income into an index fund through a robo-advisor. Fast forward 5 years, Carla has built a 5-figure investment portfolio and she's on track to retire comfortably, all because she took that gig money and put it to work for her. That's the urban investor mindset at play. Now, some of you, I know you're out here, you're buying your very expensive designer bag, you're buying your designer shoes. Think about those things depreciate. And I really want you to think about, yes, in the moment, those things are great and you look really cool in front of all of your friends, but who's going to be there when you have an emergency? Who's going to be there when you want to quit your job and you don't have a nest egg, so you have to stay at that job that you cannot stand? So I really want you to start thinking about, a lot of people will say to me, Elaine, like, I don't have the money to do this. I don't have the money to do that. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the very nice watch they're wearing. I see that they get their hair done every 4 weeks. I'm seeing that they're eating out every single weekend. And so just really want you to think about, particularly if you're an urban dweller, to think about how can you reimagine your budget to really start thinking about becoming an investor for the long term, right? But back to Carla. If you're already side hustling or thinking about starting one, make sure you have a plan for how you're going to use the extra income. If you just have it, you are going to spend it. So think about what you want to do. And this is being an opportunity to grow your wealth. And remember, you don't need a ton of money to get started. You just need consistency. Treat your side hustle income as if it's fuel for your investment engine, right? Now, let's talk about the power of the gig economy. Let's discuss how to maximize your earnings to build a diverse portfolio, whether you're investing full-time, your full-time income or your side hustle money. Having a variety of investments is key to your long-term financial success. Now, we have already talked about stocks and ETFs and REITs, but now I want you to start thinking bigger. Urban investors can diversify their portfolios across multiple asset classes, including bonds, peer-to-peer lending, and even alternative investments like art and collectibles. I talked a little bit about this before the break, but have you ever heard of Masterworks? This is not sponsored. They are not a sponsor of mine. I'm getting no money from Masterworks for mentioning them at all. And there are many other platforms beyond Masterworks. But Masterworks is a platform that allows everyday investors to invest in high value art, which was once only available to the super wealthy. Through Masterworks, you can own a fraction of a multi-million-dollar painting by an artist like Banksy or Basquiat. Investing in art has become much more accessible and can be a great hedge against stock market volatility. You can also look into peer-to-peer lending platforms like a lending club, which allows you to lend money directly to individuals or small businesses and earn some interest. This is a great way to diversify your portfolio without needing to buy property or deal with the stock market, particularly if you don't have time to be managing and reviewing and researching all of the stocks that you might be interested in. You might have a high pressure job, or you might have a job that just zaps all your brain power and you have nothing in the tank afterwards. So once again, robo advisors would be great. But here's a tip. Managing a diverse portfolio can really seem daunting, but it does not have to be. There are plenty apps like Personal Capital and Mint, and I think Mint is going away. I'm not sure. I think I read that, but double check, that help you track all your investments in one place. These apps give you an overview of your entire portfolio performance and can help you stay on top of your financial goals. On my phone, I have a little folder that are all my financial apps. So my app that is to manage my bank account, my app that is managing my investment account, plus any other financial apps. Then all that information is all in one little folder. So anything that I want to look at, whether it's my cryptocurrency investments or anything, they're all in that little folder on my phone. I also have a folder on my laptop, so I can also track all of those apps as well as any statements or reports that I might be able to receive. So once again, it's not something that you need to look at every single day, but you do want to start to organize your life and the outputs from these opportunities so that you can at least keep an eye on them. I recommend maybe at least once a year, particularly if you're doing long-term investing. But take a look at it once a quarter if you're working with a robo-advisor or some of these accounts that might have more frequency as far as your return on investment or dividend payments. Okay, my friends, I've been taking you on a little bit of a ride, and I'm so grateful that you are sticking with me, okay? But we're moving into the home stretch. Okay, my city slickers, it's now time for your action steps. You might have been listening. You're like, okay, this has been a lot, Elaine. So what do I do now? You know, I love learning with you, and that things that you can actually do to start building wealth is what I want to make sure you leave the show with. Okay. So action step number 1. If you haven't already, maybe this is your first episode, maybe you've listened to a couple of episodes and you still haven't been gotten off your behind, I want you to create an investment plan. And actually before that, I want you to start to create, what do you want? Create the vision of the life that you want to live. What does it look like? That will then help you to inform your investment plan. Whether you're starting small with micro investing or you're diving into REITs or you're building a stock portfolio, it's all about having a plan. Take a look at your income, both from your main job and any side hustles, and decide what percentage you want to allocate towards investment. And start with whatever you can, even if it's $50 a month. I had for a while a child support payment that was coming in. My child support payments didn't come into my son being a teenager. And so instead of taking that money and just adding it to all the income, my bank account that where my paycheck goes, I actually opened a separate bank account, and all of my child support payments went into that bank account, which was great because I leveraged that money to invest. And so over time, I let that money sit and sit and sit and sit and sit. It was gaining interest at the bank that it was sitting at. I never really accessed that money until I was ready to make an investment. And when I was, it was sizable. I was actually surprised because I had stopped even checking the statements for that particular bank account. So it was to my surprise when I saw that there was 6 figures as a result of years of deposits going into that bank account. So now let's move on to action step number 2. If you're hustling on the side, set up an automatic transfer percentage of your earnings to go into an investment account. Don't wait until you've spent half of it on brunch. Set it and forget it. And so your money starts to grow without you even having to think about it. You don't need to own property to own a 6-figure salary or have a 6-figure salary to build wealth. The key is consistency and the mindset that every dollar you earn has the potential to grow. My final action step is that my final call to action for you is that your living situation does not have to determine your potential wealth. Whether you're a city penthouse liver or or a studio apartment, living in a studio apartment or a shared space with roommates, you can start to build wealth. It's really about the action steps that we've talked about today, whether it's investing in your side hustle income, diversifying across your assets, or simply getting started with micro investing. Now, here's the challenge of the week. Pick one investment strategy that we talked about today and take action, whether it's signing up for a robo-advisor or opening a REIT or setting up automatic contributions from your side earnings. Just do it. Your future self will thank you. So that's it for today's episode on the Do Different Better show. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen. I talked about strategies for maximizing your returns without ever buying a house. Whether you're renting in a high rise or living in a studio apartment, there are ways to invest and grow your wealth. I discuss leveraging REITs, ETF, and the gig economy, and how to make your side hustle income work for you. I hope you're feeling inspired and to start investing and making your city life work for your financial goals. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with somebody who's ready to make a difference with their money. Let me know what you think of the show. We love comments. So tell me how this show helped you. Or if there's a money or finance question you have, or if there's somebody you want me to interview, hit me up on LinkedIn or Instagram at Do Better with Elaine. I can't wait to see you next week when I show you how to do different better.